This show is made possible by the generous support of listeners just like you. Our show is about helping souls grow, prosper, and evolve, and every gift ensures that we can continue to do this. So we thank our generous supporters and also ask if you would like to be a part of supporting this important effort to bring this message of truth to the world. Please consider heading to experienceofthesoul.com/support to be a part of supporting us by being a regular patron or making a one-time gift. Blessings on the journey, dear friend.
Natural Awakenings Magazine, Zen Living Realty, and Supportek Staffing present The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly show featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 121, Take Your Step. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm the host and I'm here in my home studio with my producer.
Hello everybody, this is Dave Croft. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 121 of the Authentic Spiritual Journey. I hope that you are ready for an amazing week because I know that you are going to have an amazing week.
Boom. Happy Monday, yo. And this is going to be an amazing week. And it will be because you have decided that it is so. And I'm just thinking about the awesome time we had at the ranch on Friday and can't wait for the next one. So it's going to be.
Now, yeah, and that's the ranch is going. That's going to be a more regular thing. This wasn't just a one-off, was it?
Well,
Or is that the idea?
Yeah, that's the idea. So we'll see. I guess, if people keep showing up, so will I.
Yeah.
And our goal is just to reach people and really what's so interesting about being out there is that the owners each have, there's 3 owners and they each have their own very specific journey. And they have created such a place of safety and love and non-judgment. And so part of the goal is really to bring people together from all different denominations. Like, I don't even, know from one to the other necessarily what the topic will be, because when people arrive, I start to get a feel of really what's needed by talking to people and by feeling the energy. But there are people that will just be neighbors who've never even been in church at all. There'll be people who grew up like staunch Catholics who, were on the front row at Bible Baptist to Methodist to Unity people. And so, and in my view, that's the future of spirituality. It's like spirituality for the 21st century. So for me, it's where I'm going in my teaching. And, this show is a great example of that as well. I mean, we have people all over the world listening. I'm quite sure they're not all one denomination.
Oh, no.
You could be a Muslim and listen to this show and it support and help your life. And as a matter of fact, I have several Muslim, I really should say Muslim listeners. And a couple years ago, I'd even done a book signing down at a cafe that is owned by a woman who's Muslim. And there several women came in with their children and bought everything I had. And they just wanted to support me being there because I was supporting the community. And, it was just so beautiful to experience that. So it really blew any stereotype I still had left of Muslim people and Muslim women. Such strong, vibrant, supportive women who just wanted spiritual support for themselves and their families. So, my hope is that as we play these affirmations every day, they're there with their kids listening like I am with mine. So yeah, that is the goal of the podcast, of the work at the ranch, of just my ministry. And when I say I mean my, this has been my goal in life. And so now it's just expanding out to more people. And regular listeners know I have a goal of reaching 1 million. We're way over 100,000, which makes me know that goal is even closer than I imagined.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, Dave, did you give the title today and I missed it?
I did not. Today's episode is Take Your Step.
Yeah, you could even say it, take your step.
Take your step.
Mm.
That's funny because I pledged and was a member of Kappa Kappa Psi band fraternity in Boone, North Carolina, Appalachian State, and we have chapters all over the country, but many chapters in historically Black colleges, and so stepping was
Yes,
a big thing in our
stepping is
fraternity. So
awesome.
so even though, the Iota Omicron chapter at Appalachian State University was, predominantly white because,
Right.
a school in the mountains of North Carolina is predominantly white. But man, they the Grambling and A&T, they welcomed us in with
Awesome.
opened arms, and they welcomed our step team. We had some a brother transfer from A&T, and was a member of our chapter and got the step team going and everything.
Did you ever do it, Dave?
Uh, yes, I did.
Awesome. I
Yes,
didn't
I
know
did.
that. Stepping out's awesome. Well, what I was thinking is with you as a percussionist, how cool it would be, right? Because of your sense of rhythm.
Yep, yep, yeah. I can't say I was good at it,
Well, you made the effort. You
but
made the white boy effort.
the good news is I was so tall, I was always in the back. So
Put the big guys,
that's
put the
right.
big lugs in the back.
Yeah, no.
Well, it's funny. Take your step. Yeah, take your step. Um, that is so cool. I didn't know that about you. So,
Mhm.
if you guys don't know, our listeners don't know what stepping is, Dave, you got to put maybe a little link or two to educate
Yeah,
folks.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know you've seen it. It's kind of like rhythmic clapping and dancing, and
Yeah.
it's like it's not cheering, but it's yeah. I'll find a link. I'll put something in our show notes to what
Yeah,
stepping is.
yeah. Well, today is take your step. So whether you're stepping for real or it's a spiritual step, it the same thing applies because taking your step is a very vibrant, trusting um, activity. So even if you are um, if well, let me back up. In your life, you've taken many steps, right? You've taken many steps toward your evolving. And so if you've been listening regularly, a couple shows ago we did spiritual journey, and then the next show we did evolving soul, and this week is take your step. Of course, all these are related, and really we try to have all of our shows kind of build on the last one. So if you haven't listened to the last couple, you might want to go back and grab those to have context for what we're talking about today, because we've been talking about the journey and we've been talking more in depth about evolving and why we do that, and why it's important in our journey. So take your step is actually what makes the evolving happen. So in other words, you can know what's yours to do in your mind and in your soul, but if you don't do it, you have not evolved.
Hmm.
You have to take your step to evolve.
So what I'm hearing you say is it's not enough just to talk about it. It's not enough just to plan for it and
Or
journal
think
about it.
about it
It's
or
not
journal about it. Yeah.
that's what I'm hearing you say.
Yes. And so taking your step, um, and Dave, I also want to put a link to this in the show notes. Do you remember the movie? It was the one of the Indiana Jones movies.
The Penitent Man, the step, or not the Penitent Man, Indiana Jones, and when he's having to
Yes,
step on the certain letters that spell Jehovah,
right. He's having to step on the certain letters, and then he has to go over this big kind of, I don't know what you would call it, a crevasse,
a chasm,
a chasm. Okay, another thing.
the leap of faith.
That leap of faith, and that's kind of what it feels like when you're taking a spiritual step. Not kind of. That is what it feels like. I know because I just took one. I just took a big step, y'all. And so far, so good, is what I have to say.
Mm.
But uh, so taking your step is a necessary part of evolving. So we as our talking about it the last couple three shows has been about the spiritual aspect. And even though taking your step is spiritual, there is usually a very physical aspect to this movement. In other words, a decision has to be made and you have to take action. So take your step could be called take action. But the thing is, sometimes the step is internal, like it's stopping a behavior, right? Sometimes it's starting a behavior.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's leaving a job. Sometimes it's starting a job. Sometimes it's doing relationship in a new way. But you see, all those involve uh, a choice and then action, right? So um, if if you are in addiction and you decide, if you say, you know what, I want to be sober, I want to really move into my recovery. Well, first you have to know it in your mind and in your soul, and then you have to do something. You have to clean liquor out of your house. You have to throw away what you've been taking. You have to start going to AA meetings,
Hmm.
right? So that is a step. But first it happens internally, but then physically something has to change. And that's always how it works. So whatever we do internally impacts our physical world. And one of the reasons the way I teach spirituality works for so many people in changing lives is that most of us grew up in church where um, you would go to church and for the hour you were like really holy and everything, and then you went home and just did like everything else normal. The holiness had like um, no impact like in the daily life. And so what I love about how we work with spirituality in my ministry is that the idea is that your life is your spiritual life. There is no life without spirituality. And so life is here to help us grow, prosper, and evolve. And so to do that, we have to take our step. We have to take our step.
Hmm.
When I was talking to a couple colleagues, as I was preparing to leave CCU, they thought I had lost my mind. Like, oh my God, you're like known in the whole movement. It's an amazing gig. Your people love you. You love them. You have a wonderful salary. You live in a vacation destination. Are you out of your mind? And I said, probably, probably, but sometimes we have to lose our minds. It's okay. It's okay. I had to take that step, Dave. I love CCU so much. I always will love CCU, but I had to take my step.
That's right.
It would not have been good for me or for the church had I stayed.
That's right. Yeah,
You know,
you've just been in the way of somebody else taking their step.
exactly, exactly. Dave, you're always so good at moving us to the next point. I think people must think we plan that, but
We
I'm
really
telling you,
don't.
we really don't. Dave just knows the title and plugs it in, and then he's like, well, so
Yeah.
say what you said again, Dave, one
Well,
more time.
if you don't take your step, then you are in the way of someone else taking their step. So if you're meant to step away as the head
Yeah.
minister of CCU and you're staying where you're not supposed to be, then that means somebody else isn't able to walk into where they need to be.
Well, and frankly, yes, you're absolutely right. And the minister that was there before me, who I have a lot of respect for, Reverend Gene, he said, you know what he told the board when he was getting ready to leave? He said, I feel like I'm sitting in somebody else's chair.
Yep.
And, that was a really bold move because he didn't have anything to go towards either. I mean, I have a lot I'm going towards, but I just mean he didn't have another church gig lined up, is what I mean.
Yeah.
And so there was a little bit of stepping into the abyss, but he was so guided to do it. And I really respect him for that. And I really hope the next person that comes to CCU, I'll be able to lovingly support, and I will from wherever I am, because I'm going to be traveling a lot, even though I'm still based in Orlando in the future. I know I'm going to be traveling a lot. I know because the staff gave me suitcases. Like, okay, bye. Here's your suitcases. Get out of here. Um, but so take your step, and you're so right, Dave. If we don't take our step, or we're robbing somebody else of their step. And I kind of hinted about this in the last couple of shows, but I want to say real specifically that as you begin to awaken more and as you begin to become more conscious, you realize that you're not just that your life is not just about you. Your life is not just about your own will and your own goals, but that your life is, yes, it is about living your purpose, but you realize your connection with the larger whole. So it was a really insightful comment you made, Dave, that if I don't take my step, I'm preventing somebody else their step.
Yeah, and I think I've shared this on the podcast before, but I was playing drums at a church, and I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a member there. I was, just filling in, and and I just felt like it was time to leave. Everything was great, and there was nothing had happened. I'm just like, I feel like I am keeping someone who's a member of the church and all of that from coming into this. And sure enough, when I left, there was a member of the church who was a drummer and had wanted to play, but just hadn't, because they're not going to go up and say, "Hey, I want that guy's drum seat."
No,
And
no,
and
right.
so by the next week, they had somebody there who was an active, thriving member of their community, and so I've seen
Perfect.
that firsthand. Yeah.
Yes, perfect, perfect. And beautiful that you could do that. And I know, we so often talk about job and career move, and I'm really mindful right now that a lot of people are reinventing themselves. I just
Oh.
talked to a local member of our community that I definitely want to have on. Chris Cortez,
Hmm.
he and his wife Melody own the Blue Bamboo, and he has constantly reinvented himself. And I think he has a real personal spirituality, but I have mentioned to him about being on the show. And I think it's important for all of us to hear stories of how, we listen to that internal guidance and that internal awareness and move, because the world would tell us stay where it's comfortable.
Especially right now, and Disney
Exactly.
laying off a quarter. I just read yesterday that they released 97% of their contract and part-time people.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so contract entertainers, people who were
Hmm.
like our own, Steve Luciano at CCU is a contract person at Disney, and I mean these are people who upended their entire lives to come live their dream of like being at Disney or Universal or at the
Yeah.
attractions or whatever. And so I imagine there are a lot of people really frightened and feeling lost,
Hmm.
and sometimes taking your next step is when you're almost forced to. It's not quite so voluntary, but there is still a next step to take, and you're not just kind of flailing around on your own, and you're not without support, and so it can be a really scary time, especially if taking your next step wasn't maybe the plan from the get go.
And once again, Dave, you're ahead of me.
I'm
That's
sorry.
no, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit more in the second half is what happens when it's not your idea.
Mm,
But what I want you to know is, friends, as you're listening, I hope you're laughing. You might say, well, it's funny to you, but I was one of those people laid off. No, it's not funny to me, but I've learned to laugh at life circumstance. And I've learned to laugh when I don't understand rather than getting mad at God, because
right, right,
I've learned that kind of God always wins that, number one. And I've also learned that if I can, be grounded but as lighthearted as possible, moving forward, that's going to serve my journey well, because I know ultimately nothing is against me. So I want you to, friends, as you're driving, if you're cooking or doing something around the house, I want you to stop and say, nothing is against me. Nothing is against me. As a matter of fact, everything is for me. Nothing is against me. Everything is for me. So literally, you are being guided, you are being supported, you are being blessed, even if taking your next step was forced. Nothing is against you. So the goal in the journey is to receive our guidance and take our next step. That's the goal. And when we do that, our evolution becomes more conscious. So rather than fearing change, we welcome it. Rather than fearing change, we welcome it. So we want to support you in taking your next step, and we want you to know that you're not alone in this. And so if you're having to pivot right now, with everything going on, yes, I'm sure you are. We're supporting you in that by helping you take your next step, taking it in love, and taking it because you were guided to take it. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this as we come back right after these brief messages.
We'll return to the program in just a few moments, but first, we wanted to give a special word of thanks to our podcast partner, Natural Awakenings Magazine of Central Florida, Greater Orlando. Each month, Natural Awakenings magazines across the country take a practical look at the latest natural approaches to nutrition, fitness, creative expression, personal growth, and sustainable living. Natural Awakenings magazine is a free publication and is available in selected stores, health and education centers, healing centers, public libraries, and wherever free publications are located. You could learn more, including advertising opportunities for your business, by calling 407-628-0705. We'd also like to give a special thanks to Zen Living Realty. Zen Living Realty's mission is to mindfully serve, connect, and positively impact their customers, partners, and community through their Zen approach to real estate. Their vision is to be the most trusted real estate brokerage in the Central Florida area. You can reach Zen Living Realty at zenlivingrealty.com or by calling 407-800-2717. And finally, we'd also like to give a special thanks to Supportek Staffing. Supportek Staffing is an innovative staffing agency built on the principle of caring about their employers and employees as they navigate these new workforce and workplace challenges. If you're an employer, they want to be your human resources partner and help with the changes needed during the pandemic. If you're a candidate, they want to become your lifelong career agent to help you grow into your fullest potential. Supportek prioritizes support over volume, integrity over profits, and will treat your business and your career as if it was their own. You can learn more at supportekstaffing.com. That's SUPPORTEK staffing.com. And now we return you to this week's episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey with your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Welcome back. Again, we're glad you're with us. And I bet you were thinking on the break about, my next step. And I think it's so great, Dave, that one of our sponsors now is about staffing, Supportek Staffing. And we'll be glad to bring Joe on a little later. We just had to reschedule him, but he'll be coming onto the show later if people find out more about him and his company. I think it's divine timing for him opening this business now and also promoting through our show, because we're so about supporting businesses with conscious leadership, and that's this show is a perfect match for Supportek Staffing. I think that's awesome. So Dave mentioned right before just before the break that sometimes our steps are forced.
Yeah, I mean, us being in Orlando
Yeah.
is a result of our steps kind of being forced and a situation going really sideways and job changes and everything that weren't necessarily voluntary, or let's just say they weren't as we would have planned. And so
Right.
we've lived this.
Oh, exactly. And also, I mean, Dave, I want you to kind of feel into that a little bit. And I'm sure at the time, how did it feel? I mean, I'm sure it didn't feel good at the time when you were
No, yeah,
like,
I felt like we were being ripped from something that we thought
right?
we would retire doing. I mean, that's how invested we were into the people, into the school in Memphis and everything.
Mhm.
And we were all in, and then it just went sideways. Yeah,
Like way south.
way south. Yeah.
Well, and my guess is, I don't know, the ins and outs of the situation, but my guess is, as that started to happen, there was probably some awareness on your part and probably Shannon's as well that, like, this was not feeling good
Hmm.
the last, whatever. And
Oh
so,
yeah, yeah. The last year before it actually,
yeah,
that you kind of sense it. There's this kind of weight, this impending kind of weight, and you start kind of looking for the exits, and you start kind of, okay, maybe this isn't the retirement doing this until we're 60 thing that we thought it was.
right, right. And our culture says, work a job, stay there 40 years until you retire. And when you're really living a vibrant spiritual journey and as committed as you guys were, like you said, you gave your heart and soul to the position. And because, when you do that kind of work, it's not just a job, it's like
It's
who
your life. It's your
it's your
identity.
whole life and identity. And so, there's a little bit of a comfort in that. You're
Hmm.
always around the same people, kind of what to expect in general. Yes, there's, misunderstandings, but in general, everybody's moving in the right direction, in the same direction, and you have a shared mission and vision and goals. But there is a little bit of an insular um, feeling to it. And so, when you're supposed to really grow and expand, you're going to get knocked out of that. And so even though at the time it was really difficult, what I know because you've talked about it is what a blessing because like you said, it got you here.
Oh yeah, it's not only here but into like TV music and Shannon doing more music directing and all. We could look at the point of tangent,
Right.
and our lives are exponentially better, more prosperous, fuller. We've met the most amazing people. I mean, we'd never dreamed of living in Florida. It's just like, I mean, Florida was the punchline that everybody, thinks of
Yeah, the Florida guy.
Florida man and Floridians and all of that, and
Oh, I've never heard Floridian.
oh, yeah, that's what we called the people when we were in Boone, going to school of Appalachian State, the people that would drive up with Florida license plates and drive really slowly, looking at the leaves every year. We called
Yes,
them
right.
Floridians. And now I am one. You know how I know I am one? Because I've driven up to the mountains to look at leaves.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. But yeah, exactly, right. So, you know, it's like I wanna say to people listening, like, we wanna really encourage you. If you're one of those people, hang in there
Hmm.
because, you know, um, there is this, um, there is this type of universal archetypal patterning to spiritual awakening, and part of the awakening is leaving behind what no longer works. And, oftentimes our personality confuses comfort with like divine right place. And comfort is not like God doesn't really care if we're comfortable. Like the universe doesn't really care if we're comfortable. The universe is going to want us to grow and expand. And of course, we can't do it all at once, which is why we take steps. That's why we take steps. I myself have been on such a trajectory of change and growth. Spirit and I have been having conversations like, all right, I cannot do one more thing, and so, but Spirit's like, well, you say you want to reach 1 million people. I'm getting you ready. It's like, okay, so I'm working with Spirit on that, but I'm taking my steps. I've sold my homes, I bought a new one, I left my job. Wow. How many more steps could one take? Well, evidently, now I'm starting a new service thing out and, so but if I had not taken the other steps, I would not be where I am right now. And so, that old phrase of 2020 hindsight, that's definitely true on the spiritual journey. But the personality fights taking the step because it loves comfort. And the personality ego self loves to stay small. I'm going to say that one more time. The personality ego self loves to stay small, and I'll say this, and comfortable. So it knows what to expect. But ultimately, once you start growing more and moving into your, more of your awareness of who you are, you'll see how limiting the personality ego self is. You will see how limiting the personality and ego self is. Mm. And it's like, oh, I thought that was all God had for me? Oh, no. Oh, no. So we want to move into living from spirit, or the soul of us, the infinite self of us, the God of us, the Christ of us, the self of us, right? From this divine self, this is where we want to live. And so, when we're like really hooked into, okay, let's do it this way, that way. No, no. That is all personality that wants to dial it in and know exactly what's next. Spirit says, buckle your seatbelt. Kansas is going bye-bye. We're moving. We're moving. But so if there is a forced step, like Dave, I wanted to talk a little bit more about it, just that, I've heard people say, I got the cosmic 2x4. Have you heard that, Dave?
Oh, yeah.
I've got the cosmic 2x4. And the only reason I don't like that is it sounds like I've become victimized by the divine. And in truth, it is your own soul that's pulling you forward. Now, it's unconscious to you that that's happening, but that doesn't mean your soul is not engaged with what's happening. And in the spiritual realm, I will say it this way: the spiritual realm is more real than the physical realm. We just refuse to acknowledge it. But I work with a lot of people. I have teachers, mentors, healers that I work with. And when we have conversations, they are completely different from what I have with other people. Because all of us are so dialed into the spiritual realm, we can work in and out of that so easily. We don't have to explain to each other, well, I had a conversation with one of my angels the other day. Well, that means no, we're there, right? We're just, we're in it because we're all living life from a place of the spiritual is more real than the physical. So if some of this stuff is new to you, it's going to feel like, God, why did the universe do this to me? But the truth is, nothing is against you. So if you're forced into a step, it means it was time to take the step for your soul. Mm. Nobody's victimizing you, least of all God. That's the old idea of God, the kind of Hebrew Bible. Many of you grew up calling it the Old Testament God. And we're talking about something completely different. We're talking about the highest level of unconditional love that can see past, present, and future. And so what looks to us in our little minds like, oh no, look what the universe did to me. God's going, you don't know what good is. Come on, take your step and let me help you. It's like, you don't know what good is. You haven't experienced good yet.
That's
right?
And that's exactly how I felt coming out of Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you think this is good, but this is good, and this is great. Yes. Whatever what this is that I can't show you, otherwise your brain would explode or your face would melt like Indiana Jones. But this is so amazing. Just trust me.
Yeah, and you're so right. I had a practice of this when I was really early on the spiritual journey. I was in my 20s, and I had found my way to this Unity church. It was Seattle Unity, and there was a woman there, and she did some like group therapeutic work, and was of course, highly spiritual in her base. And she offered therapeutic work at a real discounted rate. And because it was group therapy, it was really helpful because we were all in kind of similar places on the journey. Some were what I would consider more advanced than I was, but which made it even more helpful to me because I could, learn from their journey. But as we would go through different practices in the sessions, it was really, really helpful to be able to be guided through, like the different stages. And I remember specifically one session where we did this visualization, and we had to, like come out and talk about it with the group. And mine in particular was there, I had been feeling really blocked. My dad had died a few years before, and I had been feeling really blocked. And so when she took me on this visualization, she had me describe the block. And I said, it's like there's this really high wall. And she said, well, I want you to work on, she said, can you get over the wall? And I said, well, yes, there's a ladder there. you know, it was like, yes, I could get over that wall. And she said, well, why don't you climb up the ladder and see what's there? And I was like, oh. And she said, well, what is it? And I said, oh, there's a lot of happiness and joy over there. She said, yeah. Why don't you join them? And so it was like, oh, you mean I can really choose to move and just take this step over the wall? And of course, the wall was emotional. The wall was old beliefs about myself and what I had a right to. But I had to take the step to move over the wall. I had to climb over it. Nobody could do it for me. I had to see it first. So when we're talking about taking a step, when we're talking about, the spiritual journey and evolving our souls, it is absolutely incumbent upon us to take 100% responsibility for our journey and not blame God or the universe or the economy or the president or whatever, because it does you no good. You are 100% responsible for your life and what's happening. I am 100% responsible for my life and what's happening. I am responsible. So taking your step is really take your step. I cannot take it for you. Dave cannot take it for you. No church or minister can take it for you. You have to take it. And if you don't feel ready, that's fine. You do your work in consciousness. But if it's time and you don't take it, the universe will help move you forward. The universe will help move you forward. And in the last few minutes, I want to talk about why it's so important to take your step. So, um, I'm probably going to do a whole show on this later, but I wanted to mention it today because of speaking of take your step. And what I've noticed about taking my steps is that spirit doesn't always force you, like if you don't take it, right? So when spiritually, when we know something's ours to do, we have these windows of opportunity that open. And those windows are available at certain times on our journey. Sometimes I wonder, even it probably has to do with our astrology and all of that as well. But there's certain times we have to take a step. Now, what I've noticed in working with thousands of people and in my own very specific journey, if I don't take my step and move into that window of opportunity, that opportunity may not present itself again for some time. And that's not to instill fear, that's to instill reality. That you can't wait forever to take your step and assume the opportunity that you want or the direction you're heading will still be there. Because certain things coalesce, there's like this infinite field of possibility, and each consciousness we're trying to move into even is a field unto itself. And so if everything's coalesced, like happened in my case recently, then you really have to take it then, or you may not get another chance this lifetime. And that's just a fact. And in working with people over the years, I've even seen people with ideas for inventions where we've talked about them in session. I've known like details. And then 2 years later, I see on the news somebody else has invented it. And I think, wow. I mean, like I can like go back and go, oh my goodness, I remember. Right. So what I'm saying is the divine will find a willing participant to bring God's kingdom on earth, whatever that might be. And so while you're waiting around trying to figure out it's the best time, Spirit's going to go, you know what? I've got a player over here, and I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to go over here to this energy that's ready to move and ready to grow and ready to evolve and ready to take their step and ready to take a chance and ready to move forward. So Spirit's going to find the most willing participant that's ready to move. So windows of opportunity are important to pay attention to. Windows of opportunity are important to pay attention to. So as you're contemplating, taking your step, you really need to look around and be really conscious of, are all arrows pointing a certain direction and you're going, oh no, I like it here. Because that will not be good ultimately for your own journey. It's going to it will stunt your spiritual growth.
Yeah. And again, back to Memphis,
Yeah.
Looking back, I can see that's absolutely where we were. We were totally stuck and had our ego and all that stuff wrapped up into it. And so not only was this a career move, but it was also for our spirit and our soul.
Right. And so exactly. And so sometimes, back to your idea, Dave, just real quickly of a 4-step. If we get too ego identified with anything, as I had talked about, that last show about horses, Spirit will break that if you are really on purpose spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing is you could be caught in that delusion for a lifetime if you're not trying to be spiritually awakened. Spirit goes, sure, go ahead. Yeah, I got eternity. You're not even serious yet. But if you get real serious on the journey, Spirit goes, oh, okay, we got a live one here. Let's move her through, or let's move him through because he's ready to grow, evolve, and prosper. Right.
That's right.
This one's ready to get into more of the good God has. So, friends, this is why we talk about all these things. We want to reawaken consciousness. We want you to grow, prosper, and evolve. And to do that, you must take your step. So we hope the show today has encouraged you. We hope the show today has lifted you up. We always want to be like this positive energy to start your week and encourage you on the journey to say, we're with you. God is with you. Nothing is against you. Everything is for you. You are loved and supported by the universe as you move forward on this great journey we call life. So our encouragement to you is to do that work, to awaken, to remember the truth of who you are. And we're always praying with and for you for God's highest and best. So blessings on the journey, dear friend, and thank you for joining us today.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey presented by Natural Awakenings Magazine, Zen Living Realty, and Supportek Staffing. This channel is also made possible through the continued support of our angel patrons, Aggie Payton, Anna Evans, Arlene Meyer, Diana Cox, Leslie Williams, Nora Miles, Sean Kilgore, Susanna Garcia, and Taryn Tucker. If you'd like to support the channel as a patron on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2020, Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.